Good evening. Welcome to Elyria City Council meeting for Monday, November the 18th, 2024. At this time, we'll do a moment of reflective silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Sarah, would you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Sarah. If you could, for the audience and then council members, please put your phones on silent or off mode out of respect for the council. Greatly appreciated. Mr. Clerk, I have roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Callahan.
Here.
Mr. Sierra.
Here.
Mr. Armstrong. Here. Mr. Oswald.
Here.
Mrs. Mitchell. Here. Mr. Stewart.
Here.
Mr. Schneider.
Here.
Mrs. Davis.
Here.
Mrs. Soroka.
Here.
Mr. Lippian.
Here.
Mr. Tolet.
Here.
All present.
Public hearings.
There are none.
Can I get approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Sarah.
Second.
Second by Mr. Snyder. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Remarks and reports from city officials. Mayor Brubaker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening, so if you have any questions, I'll entertain those. Thank you.
Any questions for the mayor? Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. President. So I've been trying to keep up on the activity, what's going on with Reeser Point. And so, of course, I'm looking for maybe some status, but of course, you know, I disagree right now with the TIF. So I was wondering where that was going, if we know how that's going to be funded. I know there's been a lot of different changes from what they started off. So I guess just knowing, you know, maybe heads up of what's coming on down the line. Are you having constant conversations? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. President, yes, we've been meeting almost weekly, our side of the fence and DBR side of the fence. In fact, we have a follow-up meeting tomorrow with our legal counsel, the law director's office, to continue that discussion. There are very minor steps being taken towards the end goal, but we're not where we need to be yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Safety Service Director, Mr. Pianowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything to report this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the Safety Service Director? Mr. Sarah.
Through you, Mr. President. The one thing I've seen come up on social media, how long do we pick up leaves? Do we normally do it to the first snowfall?
Through you, Mr. President. We haven't set an end date yet, so I'll reach out tomorrow and find out what that is. And yeah, we haven't set an end date yet. I don't know historically what they've done. It's my understanding last year they went into the first week of December. But if, you know, it might just be when we no longer need to. I mean, we might, some of that, but we'll try and get out ahead of that and give some folks an idea of when we're going to end so they can make sure they get their stuff raked up.
Any other questions for the Safety Service Director? Nope. Finance Director Plesky.
No report, Mr. President.
Law Director Deary.
Thank you. Good evening through you, Mr. President. One thing I wanted to mention is I said several meetings back that I was optimistic that I would have some update for everyone with respect to the former Days Inn. Actually, Mr. Brunig, who is here, has had some conversations with the court with respect to our obtaining service over the necessary parties, and although the online docket doesn't quite reflect it yet, we've been assured that there will be a hearing date within the next several weeks. So that won't necessarily be the end of it all, but it's certainly good progress from where I'm sitting. Next, you've seen from the agenda, under miscellaneous unfinished business, matter of potential litigation. Attorney Brian Balzer is here. You may remember him. He's been handling some other legal matters for the city, and he's got something else that he wishes to discuss. He's previously discussed it with me as well as with the mayor, and I would request that council consider going into executive session for purposes of discussing the potential litigation. Do not anticipate that there would be action to follow executive session tonight, but depending on how this discussion goes, that we would have something prepared at the next council meeting, December 2nd, for council's consideration. And that is all I have at this time.
Very good. Thank you, Law Director. Any questions for the Law Director? Thank you. Elyria Police Department, Chief Pelko.
Good evening. The only one thing I want to mention is on Friday, we attended the AAA Traffic Awards, and the Elyria Police Department was distinguished, or awarded the top award, the Platinum Award, and the AAA award that goes for being proactive with traffic enforcement and traffic safety in the city. So just a shout out to my traffic guys and all the officers who help make the city safer. But I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Congratulations on that. Pass it on to the folks. Ms. Swerka.
Thank you, through you. Congratulations on that award. Has there been any feeling or change since the adult marijuana sort of opened up in Elyria? Has there been issues or pockets of problems, or it's been relatively quiet?
It's been relatively quiet. We haven't had any major issues or anything with anything.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Schneider.
Through you, Mr. President, this might be something more directed towards Engineer Schneider, but I've noticed on several occasions at Gulf and Cleveland Street where we've rerouted the double turn lane, people are still treating it as a double turn lane, and they're going to hit someone head-on headed towards the post office or knock the other person out of their lane. I've seen it happen 3 times, so I don't know if we need to have some enforcement or give out warnings. That's just what I've noticed.
Yeah, we can do some enforcement over there. Yeah, we can work on that.
All right, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions? Very good. Elyria Fire Department, Chief Pernesti. Questions for the chief? Any? Very good. Engineer Schneider. John, did you want to weigh in on that, or if you can, as far as just a brief comment?
Through you, Mr. President. I know over the past few weeks, we finally started getting some more paint markings on the ground, so I don't know, hopefully that was the problem. We do have the turn arrows on the ground, so it is pretty well marked. We have signs, turn arrows on the ground. I don't know what else we can do. Traffic lights even have arrows specific to their locations, so unfortunately, people are programmed to drive a certain way, and they just haven't adapted to it yet.
Right, exactly. Well, any other questions for Engineer Schneider? Mr. Sarah.
Through you, Mr. President, just the engineer's point, I did notice yesterday evening they were out doing some painting and putting some additional arrows. This was a little bit further down Cleveland Street, but I noticed that there was more even heading in towards town this morning.
Okay.
We have not had
Yeah, that's good. I've just noticed it on 3 occasions, that's all. And, it's just a matter of timing.
Okay.
In regards to the paint on Cleveland Street, just to follow up as well, the pavement markings that are out there that they're currently putting down are temporary. With the colder weather and the the rain we had, it has delayed some of the markings going down. So it does take longer once it's cold out there, so that it will take a little longer. They anticipated 5 days to complete the work, but unfortunately, it's been longer than that because of the weather. So, but they are plugging away at it, and they should have everything painted this year, and then come back in the spring next year and put down the permanent pavement markings, which is a thermoplastic pavement marking.
Very good. Mr. Oswald.
Through you, Mr. President. So now, are we responsible for keeping those lines painted, like in a couple of years when they need to be redone?
Once they paint it in the spring, they'll put down the thermoplastic, which will be the longer lasting pavement markings, which typically, you get a good 5 years out of it, no problem, unless, snowplows get on top of them and tear them apart. But it should last longer than just a couple years once they put the permanent paint markings down.
Because I was thinking about that if we're responsible, and I was just noticing those beautiful painted bicycles. If we have the same exact pattern, we could redo them, but if we don't have it, so I was just thinking about us having to do it in the years to come.
Yeah.
Very good. Ms. Swerka?
Thank you, through you. The mid-block crossing at Tannery and East Bridge, was that required as part of the road diet? Because I'm trying to figure out how many people are going to use that mid-block crossing. And it's a little bit precarious in that you're coming from the hill on Cleveland Street and you're going down and you're going to have to slow down really fast to stop there. I just wondered, was that a required crossing? Is the one at Broad gone then? Because I don't remember if that one's still there or not. Mr. Sarah might remember, up by where his business is.
So the intersection at East Broad Street, or Broad Street and East Bridge, we do have a crosswalk across East Bridge. We installed the RFBs and the crosswalk down at Tannery because of the, during the design process, there were the brewery was parking over there and they were walking, people were running across the 4-lane road, so we thought it would be best to put something there. Technically, if there is a T intersection or any type of intersection, there's technically a crosswalk there, whether it's painted on the ground or not. So people are allowed to cross there. We just thought it'd be best if they are parking over there for that establishment, because at one time I believe they had an agreement with the Spitzers to park over there. I don't know if they still do, but it was during the design process we thought it'd be best to install the RFBs.
If I could follow up, it might be we should probably just keep an eye on it, but I wonder if there should be a sign prior to getting to that crosswalk that's up closer to Cleveland Street as you're going down the hill to let you know that there's a crosswalk ahead, because I don't think that there's a sign.
There should be. There should be. I'm not
Okay.
saying there is on that
Okay.
location specifically.
But you just take
I
a
know
look.
up by Cleveland Street, we definitely have like yield here and crosswalk ahead, and then you have, like I was telling Mr. Sarah, the triangles, which people don't understand what the triangles in the road are. Those are yield bars. So that's where you're supposed to stop for people who cross the crosswalks.
The thing about the one at Tannery is that it's at the bottom of the hill. So when you're coming from Cleveland Street down, it's not a straight, flat roadway there. It's a bit of a decline, and you may not see that crosswalk up ahead. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Armstrong?
Through you, Mr. President, it's a comment to Mrs. Swerka. The brewery is not renting out that space anymore to park there, so there's been a little bit of issues with the parking, but they used to rent that out. They are no longer renting that space out from Spitzer. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Schneider.
Thank you.
I believe that takes care of everybody. President's referrals and remonstrances. There was a new referrals laid out in front of you tonight on the desk. Make sure when I read these that you're going to be having that. Item number 1, to community development. Item number 2, community development finance. Item number 3, finance. Item number 4, finance. Item number 5, finance. Item number 6, finance. Item number 7, finance. Item number 8, finance. Item number 9, finance. Item number 10, utilities and finance. Item number 11, utilities and finance. Item number 12, utilities and finance. Item 13, utilities and finance. Item 14 is rules. Items 15 through 17 are received and placed on file in the clerk's office. Petitions and remonstrances from the lobby.
There are none?
Petitions and remonstrances from council members.
There are none?
Reports of standing and special committees.
There are none?
Resolutions first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, A resolution approving a list submitted by the Safety Service Director for the collection of delinquent, inactive utility accounts and directing Clerk of Council to certify said accounts to Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this resolution be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second by Ms. Davis. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Resolution 2024-42. That's all resolutions first reading.
Resolutions second reading.
There are none.
Resolutions third reading.
There are none.
Ordinances first reading.
Sponsored by Finance, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2024-46, known as the 2024 Permanent Appropriations Ordinance, to change funds in various accounts.
Mr. Tolet.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed in its first reading under suspension of rules.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schneider. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2024-173. Sponsored by Utilities, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a water purchase agreement with the city of Amherst, Ohio, and declare an emergency.
Ms. Mitchell.
Mr. President, I ask that this ordinance be passed on its first reading under suspension of rules and declared an emergency.
Second by Mr. Armstrong. Is there any further discussion?
Question.
On the suspension, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the emergency, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. On the passage, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Ordinance 2024-174. That's all ordinances first reading.
Ordinances second reading.
There are none.
Ordinances third reading.
There are none.
Committee calls.
Community Development requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, Building Inspector, and Engineer on Monday, 11/25 at 6 p.m. Joint CD Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on 11/25, immediately following Community Development. Finance requests the Mayor, Law Director, Finance Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Monday, 11/25, immediately following the joint meeting. Utilities, Safety, Environment requests the Law Director, Safety Service Director, and Engineer on Wednesday, 11/20, 6 p.m. Rules request the Law Director, Safety Service Director on Wednesday, 11/20, immediately following the Utilities meeting. And Strategic Planning request the Mayor, Safety Service Director, Finance Director, and Law Director on Monday, 12/2, immediately following the council meeting.
Very good. Miscellaneous and unfinished business. Mr. Lippian?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. I saw a picture on Facebook of the mayor and Councilman Armstrong engaged in a chess match, and I'm dying to know who won.
First, he won both games, but the kids helped him with the first one, as you can clearly see in the picture.
Thank you for putting that on the record.
Any other miscellaneous and unfinished business? There was one other item, but prior to that, is there any other miscellaneous and unfinished business? Law Director Deary.
Through you, Mr. President, at this time, I would request, if it is the decision and desire of full council, I would ask for a motion to go into executive session for purposes of discussing pending litigation, the matter of a potential, adjoining a potential class action with Attorney Brian Balser.
So
And we would
moved.
need a roll call vote for that.
Moved by Mr. Tolet. Second by Ms. Davis. Roll call vote.
Mr. Callahan.
Aye.
Mr. Sarah.
Aye.
Mr. Armstrong.
Aye.
Mr. Oswald.
Aye.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Stewart.
Aye.
Mr. Schneider.
Aye.
Mrs. Davis.
Aye.
Mrs. Sawerka.
Aye.
Mr. Lippian.
Aye.
Mr. Tolet.
Aye.
All
Very good.
ayes.
Very good. I would ask those in the audience, please step out of the council chambers for discussion for pending litigation. Please, everyone, make sure your mics are turned off.
Are the rates on the?
Okay. Is there anything more to come before this committee? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Seconded and seconded. All those in favor, signify
Aye.
by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. This meeting is adjourned.
Not that we're excited to leave or anything.
Let's get the hell out of here.